Welcome to this episode of the Out of Bounds podcast. John Luck, Mary Evers with you after a bye week here as our vacations and social lives start to
I think
get busy here.
Did we miss 2 weeks in a row?
I don't know. The weeks kind of blend together.
Yeah. I don't know. Summertime is a blur for me.
I mean, if you watch TV or you listen to the radio, your favorite personalities are gone for the summertime.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Just think of that. I mean, we don't make the six-figure contracts they do, but
we're still their favorite personalities, for sure.
We digress to the Boston Red Sox, who have, they've gone past the halfway point here. They have a 54-34 record, 2.5 games up on the Tampa Bay Rays. And surprisingly here, I think if you go back to the start of the season, 8.5 games up on the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
Or Mary had another name for them.
Fine.
Nonetheless, the Red Sox, they're looking pretty damn good here. And we talked a little bit about this, I think, over the last couple of podcasts, that we're not exactly surprised that they're doing well. It's just how well they're doing, if that makes sense. Kind of the individual performances.
Right. I mean, I knew people like Xander, Bogaerts, and Rafael Devers who have, now made an all-star team. I knew that they were very talented. There's a reason why these guys are, big names in the league, but they're both having career seasons right now, which is, I think two of the best. I mean, one of the biggest reasons why the Red Sox are doing so well. You don't usually expect two players to be having this good of a season at the same time, but the Red Sox got lucky, and Devers and Bogaerts are. And I mean, obviously Martinez is doing a whole lot better than he did last year too. I mean, I probably wouldn't put him up to this on the same level right now as Bogaerts and Devers, but it doesn't hurt to have him batting before them either.
So Devers right now, 71 runs batted in, and let's see here, get the right number, 286 batting average.
Yep.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, when it comes to players like Devers, who are having probably their best stretch of their career, not that I'm rooting against the Red Sox, but I want to see what Devers looks like after he goes through a slump.
Yeah.
I want to see what he looks like when he goes 6 or 7 games with, a meaningless hit or an for.
Right.
He's just having trouble finding those gaps because as you continue to get further and further into the season, after you face a team like Tampa Bay for the third time or Toronto, they're going to have scouting reports on you.
Right.
So they're going to face you a little differently in this era of the shift and, all the analytics. How do they approach pitching to a player like Rafael Devers who doesn't know what it's like to be kind of that cream of the crop player?
Right. And it's funny because it's funny you bring that up, pitching to Rafael Devers when he's been playing so well, because the last series against the Yankees, I think it was, Dave O'Brien and Dennis Eckersley that were calling the game, and they brought it up, the Yankees weren't intentionally walking him, and he was getting, hits that either were home runs or still had RBI implications to them. And it was happening every time he was at bat, because obviously if you have Bogaerts and Martinez in front of you in the order, most of the time you're going to have people on base when you get up to bat. So it baffles me that they hadn't made those conscious efforts to either, one, figure out how to pitch to him, or two, recognize the fact that he's a good player and intentionally walk him. I don't think that's going to last for much longer. I mean, I would hope for the other teams, because I want the Red Sox to win and I want Devers to continue to do well. But if these other teams don't figure out how to pitch to him, that's not good for them. And the Red Sox are going to do a whole lot better than they are even now.
And it's interesting to think about how Cora approaches the rest of the season as far as defense goes, because Rafael Devers isn't the best defensive third baseman. He's had some glimpses here and there.
He's been a whole lot better this season, and I think there's definitely a visible improvement. And honestly, Bogaerts to me has been the one has more of a question mark defensively this season than Devers does.
So I think what this does is it raises the question of what Alex Cora does for the designated hitter, because obviously, J.D. Martinez wants to play in the field a little more. So as we continue going through the rest of the season, and you're going to have injuries at some point down the road. Let's be honest. Yeah. Marwin Gonzalez got injured in the series against Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Okay. And so did Danny Santana, I believe.
Yeah, so there's going to be injury stints here and there. But how does Alex Cora approach the DH spot? Because let's be honest, the one knock that I had on Chaim Bloom during the offseason was you have a bunch of guys that can play everywhere.
Right.
And right now, Kike Hernandez is playing out of his freaking mind defensively.
Yeah, that entire outfield is.
Danny
honestly.
Santana is a pretty good center fielder from what I've seen, the few glimpses I've seen of him. They have a bunch of good defensive players. Hunter Renfroe has been very good in right field, and Verdugo, we know what he can do athletically.
Right.
But I think offensively, this is where the questions kind of come into line here as far as where do you go with the DH spot? Do you have a designated hitter like a Big Papi or a JD Martinez for the first few years? Or do you go more conventional like what we've seen on other teams and have Xander Bogaerts get a couple of days in the DH spot, Rafael Devers, get JD Martinez in there? To me, I think there's a little more flexibility
for sure
offensively, and I mean, this is coming up roses for Alex Cora in a season that we had no idea what this is going to look like. I think you had a legitimate shot of this either being what it is right now at 54 and 34, and having beer and chicken locker rooms right now.
Right, and you're right. I think that the outfield is going to be something that is either, they're going to keep this steady, Verdugo, Hernandez, Renfroe line or outfield, but you could also throw in JD Martinez every once in a while, and it's not going to kill you to give him some games in the outfield, because I don't think he's necessarily as good as the guys that they have out there defensively. And I don't think that's because he's a worse player. I think it's just because he hasn't had many opportunities to be out in the field since he started with the Red Sox. And I think that, giving him reps out there is not going to hurt anyone. Like you said, they could easily, put Devers or Bogaerts in as the DH for a game. My problem is I really don't know who else was going to play their positions, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, at some point during the Kansas City series, I want to say, Bogaerts was DHing and Kike was in shortstop, and it didn't go as well as Kike in center field. And speaking of the outfield, they lead the league in defensive assists with 28, and no other team has even 20.
No, I think most of that comes from Hernandez during this West Coast road trip.
Right. Actually, Renfroe has more.
I honestly had no idea.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be Hernandez leading the way, but without Renfroe and Hernandez, you don't get I think it was a 6-game split for the West Coast road trip.
I think so, yeah. It wasn't, I don't think it was what they were hoping for, especially coming off like a 7-0 homestand. But, considering the A's and the Angels are pretty decent teams in the American League right now, it's not too surprising that they didn't win all of those games.
And I think one thing to look at here is the batting order. Obviously, I think 1 to 6, you're probably talking about one of the most talented 1 to 6 batting orders right now in baseball. But it's such a precipitous drop-off from 1 through 6 to 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
Bobby Dahlback, I feel like, has been one of those players that has a lot of flash, doesn't exactly have a lot of sizzle.
Right.
Christian Vasquez, he's had some glimpses here and there. Christian Arroyo, he did have that home run in his first game back.
Right.
But how does he come back from the injury? Does he tire himself out? Does he need that, steady comeback diet as far as at-bats goes?
Yeah.
To me, I think the one thing that the Red Sox need to worry about from now until the middle of August is the depth on this team, because after the All-Star break next week, the Red Sox only have AL East opponents from their first game back to August 2nd. Right. So realistically, you could be talking about Tampa Bay and the Red Sox playing nose and nose here. If the Red Sox continue this hot stretch they've been on through the first 88 games, you can put this thing away at the end of July. You can make this easily a 7, 8-game lead in the standings. Then it just comes down to the Red Sox keeping their eye on the ball.
And I think that the Red Sox have a pretty good chance of. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they're going to be, perfect against Tampa Bay, because obviously there's a lot of issues with the Red Sox pitching right now. But it's hard. You have to remember that Tampa Bay, their pitching isn't all that great right now either, and they have a lot of injuries to their pitching staff. And
no spider tack either.
No spider tack. So I really don't know what to expect. I think that if, you know, obviously the last couple of starts for even Erod and Eovaldi weren't fantastic, but they've been playing better than most pitchers since they've taken away Spider Tack. And, you know, obviously the real issues in the rotation are Pivetta. To an extent, he's kind of been going back and forth being either like elite or not good at all. Richards has been terrible. Perez has been almost like, I think Perez's pitching is like nothing to write home about almost. Like, it's not so bad that you're upset about it, but it's not good either. Like, he's just like a middle-of-the-road pitcher at this point.
He's a good number 5 guy.
Right. So when you start thinking about the fact that at some point in August, Chris Sale's probably going to be coming back, it looks like, I mean, like at this point, it looks like Richards is going to be the odd man out. And which I think will be a relief to most of the Red Sox fans unless he suddenly remembers how to pitch without Spider Tack or whatever it is he uses. I think he says he uses sunblock and rosin combined or something like that.
And I said that was probably okay to use, but that was just me.
I mean, right. And you know, I'm not like totally against them using something. I think they should be able to use something. And sunblock seems like the most harmless thing out of everything. But he went like off a cliff without it. Like that's a huge dip. It should not have been that much.
You know what? Honestly, just cheat all the way. Steroids, you want to use it, use it. PEDs, you want to use it, use it. Garbage cans, you want to use it,
okay.
Bang on the trash can. You want to bang on that dugout roof, go ahead.
Right,
you want to use Spider Tack, spin that ball like it's Six Flags.
I think Chris Sale is going to be in for Richards at some point in this lineup. And a couple of days ago, Alex Cora said that his plan was to shake up the rotation a little bit after the All-Star break. And he says it's for rest and to like just kind of move things around. My guess is all of a sudden Richards is going to be in that 1 or 2 spot coming out of the All-Star break. And you're going to be like, well, that's weird. Why is he in that spot? It's because Alex Cora is getting ready to open that spot up for Chris Sale.
And another thing to think about here is what do you do with the rest of this rotation? Because right now, once Chris Sale comes back, he's going to be your number 1 guy, most likely.
Right.
Number 2 would be Nathan Eovaldi.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, he's schooled the Kansas City Royals, but, you know, let's wait until we see what he does against the Yankees and Rays and Blue Jays. Number 3 is going to be Eduardo Rodriguez. Mm-hmm. And to me, Erod has been the biggest disappointment on this team through the unofficial, whatever it is, first half of the season. I mean, I understand a couple years ago he was almost a Cy Young caliber type of talent, and last year he had the myocarditis, so you know that's a whole separate issue. But still, going 6-5, 89 2/3 innings, he's allowed 102 hits, 14 home runs, and 104 strikeouts. So he's had these glimpses here and there. You go back to the Angels game on Wednesday, every hit for the early part of the game that Erod allowed was, you know, an exit velocity of 50, 60, 70 miles an hour.
Right.
You know, a bloop single here and there, and then I think it was Ohtani that took him deep to center field.
Yeah. Well, but, I mean, Ohtani takes everybody deep to center field, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, that's not really a big thing.
Really, this season, Erod has been the epitome of inconsistency.
Right.
And it's good to have a good 1-2 operation. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, Chris Sale, whether Alex Cora and Chaim Bloom want to say it or not, he's going to be on a pitch count. He's going to be on an innings count.
Sure. And
does this last into the postseason? Because you can't allow someone like Chris Sale to just go, all right, restrictions lifted, because you know he's going to go out there, say, give me the damn ball and throw it for 250 pitches.
Exactly, yeah, because Chris Sale's always been one of those players that if he's on the field, his entire heart and soul is in that game. Like, that's all he's focused on. And no, you know, most pitchers are like that, but no one is as insane when it comes to that stuff as Chris Sale. So, and the fact that he hasn't pitched in so long must be driving him crazy. So I can imagine that he's going to want to come back and just be, you know, the Chris Sale of days gone by immediately. I don't think that's going to happen. And I think that the fact that the bullpen has been doing so well can only help that situation because, like you said, he's probably going to be on a pitch count. And that's, you know, it's going to come in handy. The problem with Sale, because we know we have someone to come in the 4th or 5th inning to continue this game. The problem is if the other starting pitchers are relying too heavily on their bullpen as well, then you're not getting the same production that you need behind Chris Sale. So something's got to change with the starting pitching. I don't know what it has to be. And, I hope that with Erod, this is like a funk that he's going through and he starts to kind of slowly rebuild who he was before. But as of right now, it's not looking fantastic when it comes to starting pitching, whether you bring Chris Sale back or not.
No, and the other issue is your middle relief because the analytics, whether you like it or not, it's killing the starters on this team.
Yeah.
Nick Pivetta is a prime example. He had a no-hitter in Tampa Bay. I understand his pitch count was up there.
Yeah.
But he was coming up on the third time around the batting order.
Right.
Alex Cora comes out, takes the ball, and the Red Sox screw up the no-hitter.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, these starters, and Martin Perez is a prime example of this. He goes 4 innings, and then it's onto the bullpen.
Right.
You can only hand the ball off so many times to Sawamura or Andriese or, Whitlock in those clutch moments. Ottavino as well. And Barnes, I talked a little bit about this after the 3rd of July or on the 4th of July, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Obviously not on the show, but when the announcement came down that Barnes said he wasn't available to pitch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You're telling me that a closer can't go back-to-back days in a relatively high-stakes series because Oakland, they're probably going to be in the talk of the playoffs. If not, they're going to be the AL West champions.
Right.
You're telling me Barnes can't go back-to-back? And the Kansas City series, I don't think he pitched. Maybe he pitched an inning in the first game of the series.
Yeah.
But, dude, you need to grow a pair. You need to go out there, throw it all on the line because that game that Barnes could have been pretty valuable in, the Red Sox lost.
And he had a blown save the night before that too. So I wonder if it was even a psychological thing. Like he was just because he's been I'm not trying to make excuses for him. I'm just saying with baseball nowadays, it's like every little thing they'll be like, oh well, if it's the 4th Saturday in the month and the moon is new and the wind is at northeast, like this guy shouldn't pitch. And that's the problem. And I don't necessarily know for sure if it was even Matt Barnes that made that call. For all we know, it was Cora or the pitching coach, and Barnes just was like, all right, well, I'm not going to throw somebody else under the bus. I'm just going to say that I'm not pitching.
I mean, that's just a bad look all around if you're saying that.
But that's how baseball is in general right now.
No, unfortunately, it's just an indictment on this generation, and I understand I'm sounding like I'm 50 years old. It's an indictment on the generation.
Yeah.
When something didn't go my way, I don't want to play today.
Right.
Or from the managerial standpoint, what a poor guy. He put his heart and soul on the line that 9th inning. I don't want to put him through it again. I'm sorry. Take a seat. Listen to some Spotify. Get your mind at ease. While you're there, listen to the podcast at Out of Bounds.
Right, yeah. I also feel like, and this could just be me, and I haven't watched a lot of the West Coast games because I was, sleeping. But
you call yourself a real fan.
I know. I don't think... it seems to me that Alex Cora isn't pitching Josh Taylor as much as he probably could.
Unless he's going to be the long guy for Perez starts, maybe.
I mean, that's fair, but it seems to me so he hasn't had... Let's see if I can pull up his stats real quick. He hasn't given up a run in
He has 35 appearances, which actually blends in pretty well with
Yeah, I guess you're
Sawamura.
Right. Maybe it's just me. It feels like they could be pitching him more, especially considering how dominant he's been recently, and they only ever pitch him 1 inning. And he hasn't given up a run in it doesn't say it here, but it's 28 or 29 games now, I think.
I'm trying to pull up the stats here too, so
yeah,
one of us will eventually pull up the stats. So just stand by, take that sip of coffee. Let's see what we can get here. Game logs. Of course, MLB starts in April.
So his ERA is 2.7. He's pitched 30 innings, 38 Ks, 12 walks, and 28 hits.
He pitched twice on the road trip. Once in Oakland and once in L.A. Both. Okay. In Oakland, 1 inning. In L.A., 1 1/3.
He's given up 9 runs in total this year.
And
they were all at the beginning of the season. Like I said, I don't think he's allowed a run in since the beginning of April or something like that.
And
Not the beginning of April, the beginning of May rather.
And I think realistically, this kind of goes into what the Red Sox need to do at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
They don't need to look for that cleanup hitter. They don't need to look for that starting pitcher because they're getting the starting pitcher back in Chris Sale.
Right.
I think they're at the point now where they just need some filler for arms.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing for Chaim Bloom because you don't need to go out there and you don't need to give up a, Tristan Casas or, Tierna Haug. You don't need to give up those top line prospects that you're trying to rebuild with. You can go out there, call up, let's just throw out a team. Call the Chicago Cubs. Apparently they've been rumored to be interested in letting go of Craig Kimbrell. Not that I'm saying Craig Kimbrell's coming back to Boston, but you can make a phone call and say, you know what, we'll give you Darwinzon Hernandez, maybe a Marwin Gonzalez, and you give us one of your setup guys.
Right.
I think that's where you're at, and that's a good thing because you're not messing with that prime 1 through 6 spot in the batting order. You're not messing with 1 through 3 or 4 in the starting rotation. You're not messing with the bullpen lead up. And that's a good thing here because at 20 games over 500, if you can go through the next, 20 games now, and as I mentioned, most of it is against the AL East. If you can go 20 games and get a record of 14-6, 15-5, I think you're good enough to raise that AL East banner already.
For sure. Yeah. I completely agree. And, the Yankees just seems like they're in absolutely spiraling out of control right now, and nothing seems to be working what they're doing, and they have an entire rotation of just right-handed pitchers, which is not good, and Aaron Judge is calling players only meetings, and that's not working. And obviously the Orioles they're as terrible as they were the year before and the year before that and the year before that. So it's just, obviously they've had a little bit of trouble with Toronto. Not a lot of trouble, but enough trouble that you need to watch out for them when you're playing them. And obviously Tampa Bay is a good team. They won the American League last year. But like you said, I don't think there's much to seriously worry about unless they get complacent and stop worrying about it, and because that could be where their trouble lies as well.
So I talked a little bit about my disappointment for the first half and being Eduardo Rodriguez.
Right.
Who's your disappointment of the first half?
I feel like I might have a couple. I think, Erod is probably on that list, but I don't think I'm as disappointed in him as you seem to be. Not that you're very disappointed in him, but I think I was expecting him to not be as good because of all the things that he went through last year. I'm, disappointed in the rotation as a whole, just because it keeps going from good to bad, and the problem is it seems like all the pitchers are doing well at the same time, and then they're all doing bad at the same time. So that's an issue. I'm disappointed in Bobby Dahlbeck because it's, and not to say that this is necessarily a good comparison, but Michael Chavis lost his spot on the big league roster because of Bobby Dahlbeck, I'm pretty sure, after spring training, and it was because Bobby Dahlbeck was doing so well in spring training. And he simply just isn't what I was expecting. Everyone made it seem like he was going to be like another Rafael Devers. Like he was going to come out of the Boston's farm system and do fantastic. And he just, sometimes he does really well, but then there are like 4 or 5 games where you don't hear his name even mentioned. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Michael Chavis would be better, because we've seen Michael Chavis on the team. And he's not fantastic, but I think that while he's been up, he's been doing more for the team than Dahlbeck has. And he's, made some pretty big errors at first base as well. So I don't really, he's probably my biggest disappointment so far.
I think defensively Dahlbeck is going to grow into himself.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a guy who's in his, first or second year with the Major League Ball Club. That's one thing. But offensively, I think it just comes down to hitting those off-speed pitches. When you throw him a changeup or a splitter, he can't really catch up to it. If you throw him a fastball straight down Broadway, he's going to hit the bejesus out of the ball. But once you have that ball drop, he gets flustered and confused. Yeah. And maybe that's as simple as just having a meeting with J.D. Martinez and the hitting coach. Maybe it's, taking a couple weeks off for a quote-unquote IL stint.
Right.
Clear your mind out.
Yeah.
But to me, I think Dahlbeck has the potential to be a game changer even this year. It just comes down to him identifying the pitches at the plate.
Yeah.
And you can say that about a lot of people. Christian Vasquez, he's gone through slumps as well. And Christian Arroyo, he's gone through slumps as well. But again, that's that 7, 8, 9 spot in the batting order, which, if that's your biggest issue, you're doing pretty good.
Right.
So as mentioned, Red Sox 54-34 on the season right now. Where are they going to finish with what we know, and what we know is still to come?
So at the beginning of the season, I said that they were going to finish just above 500, which I don't believe anymore. I don't want to get too cocky because I feel like every time we got cocky in 2018 that ended up going well, but this is not that team still, even though they're doing really well.
I still think it's going to be like the late 90s Red Sox. They're going to build it up great and then break your heart.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair, except for at least the late 90s Red Sox had Pedro. We don't have Pedro.
We have Chris Sale now.
We have Chris Sale, yeah, but Chris Sale's not been Pedro. I want to say that they'll end with like 92, 93 wins. That's my prediction at this point. I think that they'll win the AL East. I think it'll be close though. I have a feeling Tampa Bay is going to have a good second half and is going to be kind of neck and neck for the rest of the season. And I think, optimistically, maybe 2 rounds in the playoffs. Houston has had their number all season, so that's kind of a big concern for me. So depending on when they face them, I think that'll probably, if they face them for the, I think that'll be the kind of their out at some point during the playoffs. But
I think we're talking about a wild card team, and that's all I think that the Red Sox need to shoot for. Don't have September be that meaningless month where, the Red Sox are on. Okay, well, holy moly, the championship is on. I'm going to watch that instead.
That's just you.
Okay, well, that may be just me, but you want to be relevant. That's what the Red Sox are playing for.
Yeah.
And can they win the World Series with this roster? Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
If everything matches up right.
Yeah, I still think they need better pitching to get there.
But, I mean, you're the baseball fan out of the two of us here, the bigger baseball fan. I'm not sure if they're doing the playoffs the same way that they did it last year.
Yeah, that's actually a good question. I don't know.
So if that is the way it goes, and again, I'm not really the baseball fan out of the two of us, so don't comment. But, well, you can comment, but don't yell at me about it. But
that's at JLuck_89 if you want to roast him.
It's been done enough. We'll talk about that later on.
Okay.
But anyways, if you're talking about an 18 playoff where you have the crazy stuff going on there,
yeah,
I don't like the Red Sox chances. If it's the more traditional route, I like their chances a little more there because it's a little more easier to plan.
Yeah.
So that's our talk on the Red Sox, and not bad. We actually talked Red Sox for close to a half hour.
I know.
Let's talk about the best team in Boston, of course.
The Bruins.
I'm sorry. The Tampa Bay Lightning won the Cup. Okay, let's talk about the Boston Celtics.
I wouldn't call them the best team in Boston. Not even close, actually. They might be the third best team.
They're the most
in
entertaining team right now in Boston, I think.
Also not true.
Ime Udoka was announced as the new Celtics head coach by the new Celtics president, Brad Stevens.
Yep.
They had the introductory press conference while we were on break. And it was an interesting press conference because Udoka actually gave honest answers.
Yeah.
And actually to the point where he roasted one of his new bosses, Brad Stevens, making fun of the fact that the Celtics were 27th in assists in the NBA.
Yes.
But there were some takeaways in the press conference, and that includes Udoka on Marcus Smart saying, quote, "I've spent time with all 3 of those guys, Jalen, Jason, Marcus, when they were on the FIBA team with Team USA, which Jason Tatum is on right now with Udoka."
Yeah.
But he said, quote, "I spent time with all 3 of those guys. They all bring something different to the team. What Marcus brings is invaluable. He's the heart and soul of the team at times." And he made it sound like, I think, that Marcus Smart is going to be one of the top 3 superstars, or top 3 Celtics, I should say, in Boston. And what that could mean is right now your starting point guard for the Boston Celtics with Brown and Tatum is Marcus Smart.
I feel like we took completely different things out of what he said about Marcus Smart. Because to me, what it sounded like was he was giving Marcus Smart some compliments, but they were all like, "Oh, he's the heart of the team. He's been here the longest. He is the team. He's Boston." Like, when did he say anything about how Marcus Smart is as a basketball player? Because at the end of the day, what the Celtics need is a freaking basketball player. I don't care if you're the heart of the team. If you can't shoot a basket or get an assist, like Marcus Smart often can't, why is he still on the team?
Unless you have Marcus Smart in that starting point guard role, and you make it clear to him that he's just there to dive on the loose basketball and to dish it and get the assist totals.
Is he going to listen?
Well, that's the thing. Is Udoka going to get through to Marcus Smart? Because that's why the Celtics had this monumental shakeup, because nobody was listening to anybody with the Boston Celtics.
Well, right.
So now you gave Brown, Tatum, and Smart a little bit of a say in the coach they want, and it sounded like they all agreed on Udoka. So now if that is the case, they have to buy into what Ime Udoka is doing in how he organizes the team. And right now it sounds like it's going to be Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown's team, and everyone else just follow along for the ride.
Right, which is fine. I mean, that's how the NBA teams are run nowadays. And I think it'll be interesting. So you said he's involved in the team, in Team USA? Is he one of the coaches?
Udoka?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay,
so him and Jason Tatum are about to spend a whole lot of time together. And I think that's going to be kind of telling because, I think that this is probably for sure one of Jason Tatum's top, choices to be the coach. I don't think Jason Tatum is upset by this. However, with Brown and Smart not around, Tatum is going to have his coach's ear for the next month or so, depending on how long they stay in the Olympics. That's going to be interesting. Like them coming back to Boston and starting to get ready for the NBA season is going to be very interesting because after Tatum has all this one-on-one time with his new head coach, I don't think things are going to be as same as people are expecting them to be. I think that you might see a trade with Marcus Smart, and I think you might see some things start to shake up because I really like Jaylen Brown. I think he's very talented, and I do think he's definitely the number 2 on the team. But he's not Jason Tatum, and Jason Tatum is going to be the star of this team, and we've been trying to make him that. And I guess he is to an extent since he's been drafted. So I think that this is going to be really interesting to see what happens when Udoka and Tatum come back from this U.S. team, however far they go in the Olympics.
So I'm just trying to pull up the Team USA roster here to kind of back up my point here because one of the players on the team, oddly enough, is Jason Tatum's childhood friend, Bradley Beal.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one interesting part. The other interesting part is the fact that Damian Lillard
is on the team.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be very interesting.
Does he get into Udoka's ear and say, man, I play really, really well with Damian Lillard, or I play awesome with my childhood friend from St. Louis, Bradley Beal.
Yeah.
Does that get back to Brad? And does that get Brad calling Washington or Portland and saying, we'll give you Jaylen Brown for either Beal or Lillard?
Right.
So that brings up the question, are we going to have the Boston Celtics roster that features both Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum? The more that I think about what I just said, I'm not 100% sure that's going to be an absolute thing. Obviously, they signed max extensions, but you can make everything work at the NBA. I'm not really worried about that.
Yeah.
But it's just insane to think about the fact that this is basically going to be a networking trip for Jason Tatum, I think, more than anything else at the Olympics.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a real test for him because I think that we've seen so many times these superstars in the NBA using things like these Team USA teams or All-Star teams to, like you said, network a little bit with other players. Like most notably, recently, KD and Kyrie when they were at the All-Star game together when KD was still on Golden State and Kyrie was still in Boston. And everyone thought that they were talking about going to the Knicks together, and they ended up going to the Nets instead. And that was huge. But all these NBA stars do things like that now. So I think that if Jason Tatum really wants to make himself one of those guys in the NBA and be a real superstar like the rest of them, he's going to have to do things like that. And I think he's got his work cut out for him because, as we know, the way the Celtics organization has been the last couple of years, NBA players aren't exactly lining up to be on the Celtics like they were before. Because before, the Celtics had the prestige and we have the most banners and all that stuff to go on in order to get people on the team. But now it's like they didn't treat Isaiah Thomas very well on his way out of here. The Gordon Hayward thing was a complete train wreck. Now you have Kemba Walker is gone too, and it's all these superstar players that are star players that have been in Boston have not left on good terms with the team. So Jason Tatum has his work cut out for him, because even Bradley Beal, I'm sure Tatum and Beal want to play together at some point, but does Beal even what's stopping Beal from trying to get Tatum to go to Washington instead?
Well, I think that comes to a salary cap issue, but
right.
I mean, realistically, you look at what you have for the surrounding pieces, and that's why I don't think a Jason Tatum to Washington deal would work out.
I'm not saying that it's going to happen. What I'm saying is I think that at this point, Tatum doesn't have a more of a leg on to stand than Bradley Beal does recruiting someone to his team.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I think the Celtics have pieces in place that can lure some people here.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think it's going to be a cakewalk like how Kyrie got KD to join him in Brooklyn? No. It's going to require some work. I mean, we just passed the, was it the 5-year anniversary of KD
Kevin
going
Durant
to Golden State with that weird summit where Tom Brady and Kelly Olynyk came to talk to him?
Yeah.
But I think you're talking about a situation like that. And this is a chance now for Brad Stevens to try and show that he picked up some of the things that he learned from the past few years, because people have said that he's the next Greg Popovich type of basketball mind. Mm-hmm. Maybe not success-wise, but someone that understands the game.
Yeah.
So does he entrust the players like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart with these decisions, like getting Ime Udoka, and does he take into account their thoughts and feelings getting a potential blockbuster trade like Damian Lillard for Jaylen Brown?
I think that it's going to take some time before they can accomplish that. I think Jason Tatum should start putting it in people's ears during the Olympic run. However, I think if I'm an NBA player, no matter how much money the Celtics could possibly offer me, I'm going to want to see how things are run with Brad Stevens in the front office and this new head coach before I decide to go over there. So I feel like it won't be until the 22-23 season that we'll see any real big changes player-wise if another star were to come to Boston.
Although, oddly enough, Team USA head coach Greg Popovich apparently is surprised at how, quote-unquote, thick Bradley Beal is. So
thick.
It may be time for
with
Bradley Beal to...
C's or Q's?
I mean, this is from Yahoo Sports, so it's THICK. It's Greg Popovich. I don't think
spelled thick correctly.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Oh.
I mean, maybe Bradley Beal were to come here, get him some slim, fast shakes. I don't know.
I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing.
No, someone that can take a hit, that's always a good thing.
The Celtics could use that.
There was a story that came out over the past week as we turn to the Olympics now.
Mm-hmm.
This track athlete's name is Sha'Carri Richardson.
Yeah.
She's apparently one of the fastest runners in the world.
Yeah.
And she had her ticket punched to go to the championship. She ran a 100-meter dash in about 10.86 seconds in the U.S. team trials.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was reported on July 1st that she had tested positive for THC, which is the main component for marijuana.
Yeah.
After those trials, so she was suspended, meaning she's not going to be taking part in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Now, there are a good number of layers with this story.
Right.
The fact that, this happened July 1st, and she could have been eligible, I think, for the team team track there on August 1st.
Yeah.
That's one thing, but she's not going to be in the Olympics at all.
Right.
The fact that she did this, the fact that she took the THC in the state of Oregon, which is completely legal.
Right.
And she was getting over the loss of, I believe it was her mother.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of factors going into this story, and there have been a lot of different viewpoints in this story. So I figured it was a good time to bring it up here, because where do you fall in the court of public opinion here when it comes to this track athlete?
I think this whole thing is absolutely ridiculous, because last time I checked, marijuana is not a performance-enhancing drug. If anything, marijuana would have made her slower.
That's what I thought.
Right. And so I think this is ridiculous. The whole Olympic drug testing committee there's always going to be problems. There's always going to be ways that the countries are finding ways around them all the time. I mean, we saw what happened with Russia a couple of years ago. And now someone who is obviously one of the most talented runners in the country, if not the world, is not allowed to participate in the Olympics. Not because she was taking something that would help her performance, but because she was smoking weed. Like, come on. This is it's ridiculous. You know, I get it from the point where they need to be strict with everybody because of the issues with doping in the past. But we're seeing professional sports not really testing for marijuana anymore. And it's legal in most of the country, I think, at this point. So I don't like it. I think this is ridiculous, and I think she should be able to run in the Olympics.
So here's my thing. The Olympics have been shady as hell for the past at least 50 years.
Right.
Do we not remember the stunts that the Soviet Union used to pull?
Oh.
Having their male athletes compete in the female categories and vice versa, and juicing out the female athletes. This has been going on for years.
Yeah.
And the hill that the U.S. Olympic Committee is willing to die on is Sha'Carri Richardson testing positive for THC in a state where it's legal.
Not only that, but let's look what's going on with the U.S. Olympic team in the last couple of years too. What about what happened with the gymnastics coach who is molesting the female athletes? The U.S. didn't seem to be facing any trials there, and I guess it's not fair for the girls who were victims of this man to not. Now you can't participate in the Olympics because of it. But the U.S. Olympic team the U.S. Olympic Committee should have faced penalties for that, and they may have, maybe they did, but it was not publicized enough that I even remember it. And like you said, they're gonna cover up somebody sexually assaulting minors, but they're going to go out in public and condemn somebody for smoking a little bit of weed.
And technically speaking, it was against the rules.
Right.
I understand. Fine. Do you not understand what goes on in the Olympics?
Right.
Do we need to talk about the Olympic Village and the activities that take place there and the special balloons that are handed out at the start of the Olympics?
Right.
Do you really think people don't know that the Olympics isn't a shady thing?
Oh, for sure.
The fact that somebody took THC to get over a loss of a relative, and for all we know, this could have been a week before and there were just traces in the system.
Right.
We have no idea. This is why it has to come out completely. Full details, full inside details.
Right.
And the fact that this is happening less than a month before the Olympics, to me, I think there's going to be a bit of a backlash. And it's going to be interesting to see what the viewership is for some of these track events that Sha'Carri Richardson would have been a part of.
Right. And I also think that it's going to be fun to watch the next Olympic lead up to the Olympics, which should only be in 3 years, because I think they're going to go back to the regular schedule.
Right, 2024 in Boston.
Yes, 2024 in Boston. I guarantee you the next Summer Olympics, or even the next Winter Olympics, suddenly it'll be the marijuana isn't something they're testing for. And now Sha'Carri Richardson, is that right? She missed out on what could possibly be her last. I don't know how old she is.
21.
All right, so she's still she would probably be able to try out again in the next Olympics. But what if, God forbid, she gets injured or something? You've taken maybe her one shot to go the Olympics away, and you're going to probably walk back that in 5 minutes and be like, oh yeah, no, we're not going to test for marijuana anymore.
If a U.S. track athletes win at the Olympics, I want them to do the old Cheech and Chong, taking a puff at the finish line. That's what I want to see.
I agree, yeah. Solidarity.
So I think on Out of Bounds, we talk a lot of sports, but we also talk some stuff not involving sports.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like people know a lot about us. They know we talk a lot about sports, but they don't know our opinions about different things that aren't sports related.
Do people want to know us?
I mean,
because in my experience, no one wants to know me.
Well, this is how people can maybe find out more, and maybe we can get ourselves some more followers.
Oh, okay, or maybe some friends.
Yeah, we need friends. We have no friends.
All right, wait a second. I don't want to go that far. Maybe you don't have any. I have some.
So what I did is I told you to make 3 questions that I know nothing about. Yeah. And I made 3 for you, and they can be sports related, not sports related, anything.
All right.
Okay? So this is something I call anything goes.
All right.
So I'll start off with the first one.
Okay.
And the first question is, we know that July 1st has a big significant storyline for sports teams, more specifically the New York Mets.
Yes.
Bobby Bonilla gets paid a little over $1 million every year by the New York Mets until I think it's 2035.
Something like that. He's going to be in his 70s. I know that much.
That would mean the Mets made a hell of a stupid investment there.
Oh, for sure.
And I think Manny Ramirez still gets paid money, too, by the Red Sox for a few more years.
I think so, too, yeah.
But what is the worst purchase or the biggest waste of money you have made in your life?
Oh, man.
See, I can think of one that I did.
For you? Oh, I was going to say, like...
No, I don't know what your spending habits are. I don't know your credit line.
I know. I'm not...
This is like Credit Karma.
Gosh, I don't know. Does it have to be something I spend money on or something like I could have asked my parents for when I was a kid and then it was a waste of money?
No, we're not talking like ponies or something. Or...
No. I don't know.
I mean, we could go with the Red Sox tickets in the past years.
Yeah, they could do that. I spent an awful lot of money on tickets on concerts, but I'm not really upset about that. Oh. That's what because my thing is, like, I don't really spend a lot of money on like one thing. Like, I'll spend a lot of money, but like usually on a bunch of things. The only thing I really spend a lot of money on is traveling, and I don't regret that either. I don't know. I don't think I have one, to be honest with you.
So I bought a guitar for myself. I think I told you this.
Yes.
And I never actually learned how to play. I started to learn, but then, school got in the way. I was like in 3rd or 4th grade.
Yeah.
And then it just found its way into my closet, and it's still there.
I have a very similar story because, like, I begged my parents to get me a guitar, and one Christmas I came down and I didn't see the guitar, and I was like very upset, and like I didn't even want to look through my other presents. But then I realized it was like on the top of the couch, and I was so excited. And I think I went to one guitar lessons and never touched the damn thing again.
The only Christmas story I have is Santa came by, dropped a scooter off in my house. I went down at 2 a.m. and rode my scooter through everything, and I almost ran over 3 of my presents. So that's my Christmas story.
That's amazing.
The second question I have is there was a Pentagon report that came out regarding UFOs, and some of the stuff they could identify, and some of the stuff were phenomenon, and there were a few things they couldn't identify.
Yeah.
Do you think there is a realistic chance that UFOs exist?
I go back and forth on this all the time because, like, I'll watch a bunch of stuff about alien things, and I once watched, and I didn't mean to, like, I just kind of like turned on my TV one day and it was on. There was this whole thing about alien sighting in Bridgewater.
That'd be the Bridgewater Triangle, I think.
No, this is before the Bridgewater Triangle, because this was when the area was first colonized, and they weren't even really like up into Boston yet. It was still just kind of like the Plymouth County area. And so that I sat there all night and watched a documentary about an alien in Bridgewater. So maybe, I would say yes. I tend to believe that the whole stuff with Roswell was really aliens, because there's a lot of shady stuff that was put out there, and the military kind of like backtracked on a lot of things that they were saying about it. So I think I would tend to say yes, there probably are UFOs out there.
I hope it's like a Men in Black thing. Like you rip off someone's face like Scooby-Doo, and it's just some god-awful, ugly alien. Yeah,
I like to think it's like Galaxy Quest. Have you ever seen Galaxy Quest? Of course you haven't. Which these aliens find... it's supposed to be like a spoof on Star Trek, and these aliens find tapes of this Star Trek-like show, and they think it's real. So when their planet's in trouble, they show up and kidnap the stars of this TV show to help them.
Oh, is that the Tim Allen movie?
It's Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Alan Rickman.
I've seen it.
Yeah, that's one of my all-time favorite movies, and I even have it on my iPad, which I was reading off of for stats earlier, because I watch it all the time.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
It's such a good movie. Oh my God.
So that's my list of questions for you for Anything Goes.
Right.
Did you have anything?
Yeah, I didn't.
Did you forget the assignment? I
well,
would put money on that one.
Yeah, I did forget the assignment. I actually had a couple, though, that I'm like just remembering. So I'm glad you went first, so I had time to remember what I was gonna say. My first question for you was because this was something I was interested in, because the other day we were talking about conspiracy theories, and I wanted to know if there was one conspiracy theory that you actually believed in.
A conspiracy theory I believe in.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I think going back to the UFO thing,
That's the thing.
I think Bigfoot is probably real.
Right. Yeah.
Figure. I would
Yeah.
say Bigfoot. That's my conspiracy theory.
My conspiracy theory is JFK's assassination. The umbrella god. Look it up, guys.
Well, also, it was a 4-day work week, which, looking back now, we can just work from home 7 days a week here.
I know.
I mean, that's a good thing, right?
My next question, I think I may have spoiled this to you yesterday, because I think I asked you yesterday, but we'll do it again now. The NCAA just ruled that college athletes could be sponsored by people. Do you think Reggie Bush deserves his Heisman Trophy back?
See, this is going to kind of backtrack from the Sha'Carri Richardson talk we were having.
Because you said, oh, it's illegal now, but like it's stupid, but you're going to just about to say that Reggie Bush should not get his Heisman Trophy back.
No, because then if you say Reggie Bush gets his Heisman back, then you're backtracking God only knows how long, because when do we put this back to? Do we put this back to the days of the U with all their issues?
Yeah.
Are they now people that follow the rules?
Right.
To me, this is kind of a situation where you start in 2021 and going forward.
Right.
That's one thing.
Yeah.
To me, it's kind of like the UMass Minutemen in basketball, the Final Four, when they had that stripped, I think, back in the late 90s.
Yeah.
I'm always going to recognize Reggie Bush as a Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
A lot of people are, too. You're going to get those naysayers that go, well, Reggie Bush was stripped of the Heisman because he had people buying things and he took gifts.
Right.
Everybody took gifts.
Yeah.
Everybody takes gifts.
Yeah.
That's college sports.
Right.
But to go ahead and say that Reggie Bush should be the Heisman Trophy winner and he should be allowed to go take part in the ceremony in New York, no, unfortunately, he broke the rules in 06, and it's something that got changed because the Supreme Court took the NCAA to task and put them over their knee.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, so we talked a little bit about Sha'Carri Richardson in the Olympics, and I thought this would be a great segue. There we go. Pause it. All right, there we go. All right, so as we talked about over the past few weeks, the Out of Bounds 10-year anniversary coming up in about a month or so.
Yeah. And
I thought one of the best segments we had was talking about the Olympics coming to Boston in 2024.
This one I've heard before.
This one, now, the Olympics, obviously, we know what happened. They're not coming to Boston. Oh, well.
Yeah.
But before that announcement came out, Corey and Brian had some thoughts on it. And
I love that the Outer Bounds 10-year anniversary is we just have a segment where we make fun of Brian and Corey at this point.
Pretty much. All right, roll it. This is a bad idea, but nevertheless here. But Brian, I want you to take us through a little tour of some of the facilities that we're looking.
If you look to your left,
oh snap!
That we're looking at here, because you said it before the show, but this is basically going to be a college Olympics.
Yeah, it's going to be the College Olympics. They plan on really fully using Boston College, Boston University, Harvard, Northeastern, MIT. I mean,
Massasoit.
Yeah, Massasoit.
Bridgewater State can host table tennis. Why not?
Massasoit's got jogging.
I have the map in front of me right here. I'm not going to read off everything, but. For the events that are going to happen outside of Boston, obviously Gillette Stadium would host soccer. The Merrimack Valley would be rowing. I guess the IOC was not too thrilled about the Charles, so I guess that's not.
It's dirty.
Yeah, well, you gotta love that dirty water.
Hepatitis.
But for example, like men's basketball, gymnastics would be at the TD Garden, beach volleyball at the Boston Common. That's going to be an interesting one, I'd say.
Yeah, right between the trees.
right between. As soon as you come off the subway, just boom, there it is. Just a ball just hit you right in the face.
Park Street.
But And
Change it for the orange.
The most impressive thing here to me is the Olympic Stadium and track and field. And this is how it's been described.
All right.
It's a temporary 60,000 seat facility. I don't know how you get
Is this like a dream? Like all of a sudden
are we
it
gonna
just
get a bunch
pops
of these chairs and just put them around, or you just get a bunch of bleed? I honestly don't understand that part.
Are they going to put this together with a bunch of milk crates? How is it temporary? Like an inflatable?
You know what?
It's going to float in Boston Common.
It's going to be one of those moon bounces.
Yeah.
Hey, 2024, you never know what kind of technology you'll have.
They already have a marathon route, and they're using something completely different that's going to end at the Common. If you have the Charles River, that's not getting used. So the real big sexy things about Boston really aren't being used. Fenway Park isn't being used for
Well, what would you
anything.
use Fenway Park for?
I don't know. No, I don't know.
Because baseball's not an Olympic sport.
I'd say put beach
Oh, it is
volleyball
now.
at Fenway Park. Out in the outfield, have two things. And what's going to happen when the Red Sox have? Were they going to go on the road for 3 weeks? How are you going to have that happen?
Don't forget, golf is an Olympic sport now.
Oh, right, yeah, there you go. Let's slow that down the Deutsche Bank. And where are all these hotels? And where are they going to put all these people?
No, any
We can't
hotel.
even host the Super Bowl. How are we going to have a freaking Olympics? This is ridiculous. We're going to put them out in Hartford, and let's just... it's just...
No, pretty
let's
much-
just use Bourne Cedar Park for camping.
Camping's an Olympic sport now?
No, that's where we're going to put everybody to sleep. Right down
okay.
Middleborough, 44, the Big X camping ground. That's an
KOA.
Olympic- Yeah, there we go. That's a great place. This is just a big, I can't use the word on air. Show. Something show.
You already said
put the word-
dumbass.
Yeah, whatever. Dumbass show. Oh my God, it's a nightmare waiting to
This is
happen.
funny because you loved this idea at
I
first.
did, and then I really thought
Then
about
you
it.
thought.
Yeah, because
Don't you hate when you think?
the one I was promoting was the Winter Olympics, which is great because we can send it
You
all
still
to
couldn't
the-
put anything in there.
No, but then you can send all the jamokes up to Maine and New Hampshire.
All right. I don't think you can refer to them as that.
Whatever they are. Have them go sledding up there and do all
But
this
then Maine
sledding.
would be hosting the Olympics.
Good, let them host it. Send it up to Bangor. Moose riding can be in a competition right up 95. See you later.
There we go.
Opening events can be at Gillette Stadium before a Patriots game.
Before the Patriots game.
Sledding can
Right
be
at
on the
CBS scene.
Yeah, sledding can be on Blue Hills, right into 128. Bringing back to this big question mark, which is this Olympic Village. This Olympic Stadium that's just going to appear out
Yeah,
of
that
nowhere.
temporary 60,000 seat
Yeah,
stadium
that's
is
right.
kind of bizarre.
Where's it going to go afterwards?
Oh, you fold it up.
Oh God.
I
I
mean,
miss Corey.
looking back,
Yeah.
you could have had the Olympic Village on Castle Island. Have
Oh,
Sully's
yeah.
cater that.
You're right.
Are you kidding me? That would be awesome.
That would be awesome. Oh my God. I love how passionate Corey gets about the dumbest freaking things all the time.
So that was probably one of the best rants he went on.
Yeah.
The college athletes getting paid, which we have to replay at some point.
Right, now that college athletes
Right.
can be paid.
Yeah, we'll have them on for that one.
Yeah.
But nothing beats LeBron. That was
No.
That was pretty much number one for Corey's rants.
I can't wait to relive that moment.
You might be waiting.
Oh.
But that'll do it for this episode of the Out of Bounds podcast. For Mary Evers, I'm John Luck. Thanks for watching and listening.